Today, we are diving deep into a document that, honestly, reads less like a legal filing and more like a declaration of war. It's one man's incredibly detailed, explosive account of what he calls a 26-year battle against a system he is absolutely convinced is designed to crush him. So right at the beginning, the author hits you with this powerful Egyptian proverb, and it just perfectly captures the frustration that fuels this entire document. Imagine showing someone a bull, clear as day, and they just look at you and say, "Okay, now milk it." It's his way of saying he's facing demands that are not just unfair, but completely absurd.
So who is the person behind this? Well, it's Professor Dr. Mohamed Ibrahim Fayad, a software engineering professor and a U.S. citizen. The document we're looking at is a memorandum he sent to the highest levels of California's government. And get this, he doesn't call it a complaint, he calls it a map. And it's just the first of 25 he plans to release to expose what he calls judicial tyranny. All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. We'll start with the core of his grievance, what this map is all about. Then we'll look at the conspiracy he alleges. We're going to examine a specific judgment he claims doesn't even exist, explore the long backstory of what he says is a legacy under siege, break down his demands for justice, and finally look at where this story might be headed next. Okay, first up, a map of injustice. So let's get right to it. What is the fundamental point of this document, according to the man who wrote it? Dr. Fayad makes it absolutely clear this isn't just some one-off complaint. He frames it as the opening chapter in a massive, ongoing expose. He's alleging a long history of systemic oppression, something he says is eerily similar to bitter experiences from his past in Egypt, but it's happening to him right now, right here in California. Next, let's look at this alleged conspiracy network. A huge part of this document is the sheer number of people and institutions that Dr. Fayad says are involved in what he calls a continuous conspiracy. So who's in the crosshairs? Well, first and foremost, he's pointing the finger directly at the judicial system itself. The memorandum names specific people, including a Superior Court commissioner, court clerks, and staff, accusing them of judicial collusion and malpractice. But it doesn't stop there, not by a long shot. The alleged network he describes extends way beyond the courthouse. He also ropes in multiple law firms for what he calls betrayal, the Santa Clara Police for intimidation, and even social service agencies for providing what he calls sham assistance and manipulation. This slide really just maps it all out, doesn't it? You can see this web he's alleging. It stretches from the courts, which he accuses of collusion, to law firms he says betrayed him, all the way to the police and even social services. He's painting a picture of a massive, multifaceted system that he believes is working against him. Okay, now let's zoom in on the flashpoint. This is the incident that really seems to have kicked this whole memorandum off, an eviction attempt that Dr. Fayad himself calls the Battle of Monticello. And this is the central, really explosive question at the heart of the crisis. How can you be evicted with a court judgment that allegedly doesn't even exist in the official records? Dr. Fayad's entire confrontation with the police hinges on this one crucial claim. So the memorandum describes this really dramatic scene. Picture this. Police show up to carry out an eviction. Dr. Fayad confronts them and he uses this Arabic slang term, fishank, which means fake or hollow, to describe the order. He accuses them of barbaric intimidation, and he stands his ground, demanding to see the original court judgment that he is absolutely certain is not in the official record. But here's the thing. This whole eviction battle isn't just an isolated incident. The document frames it as the final straw after decades of what the author calls systematic financial looting. And this slide does a great job of showing you that connection he's making. On one side, you have the big picture allegation, 26 years of his assets and rights being stolen through what he calls corrupt legal means. And on the other, you see the direct, real-time consequence, the devastating impact this alleged history is having on his life right now. And just to give you an idea of the stakes we're talking about, they are huge. One of his largest claims is for over $1 million in rights and damages that he says he's owed from San Jose State University. And that is not all. There's another claim involving over $1 million in what he calls looted assets, specifically gold, that he alleges was seized both here in the US and back in Egypt. The scale of the financial harm he's alleging is just immense. And beyond those huge sums, the list of alleged damages goes on, and it gets deeply personal. It includes everything from pension and health insurance benefits to funds he claims were seized by lawyers. The claims even extend to a demand for compensation for the alleged poisoning of his children. So, after laying out this massive, decades-long case of alleged wrongdoing, what does Dr. Fayad actually want? What's the endgame here? What are his demands?
The demands are very, very specific. First, an immediate stop to the eviction. Next, he wants to be shown the original court judgment that he's so sure is missing. He also wants transparency, demanding the names of specific court employees and details of a mediator he calls fake. And ultimately, he's asking for full compensation for all the damages he claims to have suffered.
The memorandum ends not really with a conclusion, but with this feeling that this is just the opening shot in a much, much longer fight.
And this quote from the end of the document, wow, it just says it all. It really captures his defiant tone. He describes his situation as living in hell, but says he will not be broken. He believes these attempts at what he calls slow death through bureaucracy will only make him more determined to fight.
And this brings everything full circle, doesn't it? The document ends by reiterating that this is just map number 1. Dr. Fayad says he's planning to release 24 more of these maps to lay out the full scope of his 26-year story. So, according to him, this is far from over.
You know, this whole document leaves us wrestling with a really difficult and profound question. And it's right there on the screen. When one person alleges a deep, systemic conspiracy against the very institutions of justice, where does the burden of proof lie? It's a complex, tangled story of alleged corruption, all from one man's perspective. And it forces you to think about the immense challenge anyone faces when they decide to take on the system, leaving us to wonder about the nature of evidence, power, and one person's incredible, determined fight.